I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and especially when it comes to gaming. I've made mistake after mistake after mistake. And let's just be real about it. Don't nobody like being bad at video games. Don't nobody really like being bad at nothing. But we do gotta learn how to embrace that badness and look at it and see it for what it is. So then when we finally get better, we can look back and be like, damn, I used to be garbanzo beans. Now, when it comes to marathon, it's pretty easy to be overwhelmed or feel a little bit intimidated. Even if you don't want to use that word out loud, I understand, you know what I'm saying? It's okay. But what I hope to do today is tell you guys everything that you need to know when you're getting ready to play marathon. If this is either your first time, or maybe you're kind of like me, you know what I'm saying? You a 9-to-5er and you just a casual player of the game, and you're trying to upgrade all your gear, you're trying to upgrade your factions and all them other things, but who's got the same amount of time as some of these full-time content creators, right? And no, I'm not bashing on anybody that's a full-time creator, bro. I'm trying to get to where you at too. So this ain't no attack towards you. This is more so just me speaking to the average consumer and gamer out there, like I said, with a 9-to-5. So I got about 10 tips to help you guys improve your experience on marathon and things that you need to know to help you have a better time on there, so you ain't just running out there confused and lost in the world. So we're gonna start it off strong with talking about some of the best budget gear that you can get, especially if you run in solos. Now, let me go ahead and say this real quick. This game is better designed, in my honest opinion, to be played with a team, even if it's just one other person, you know what I'm saying? It's a better experience to me personally if you have a teammate or two. But just in case you don't, that's all right. We still gonna get you right. So straight off the bat, the best thing that you can do, or at least one of the best things that you can do, is actually get up in there with the sponsor kits. And the reason why is because there's no real big risk for you running that sponsor kit. And if you die, you know what I'm saying, it's not that big of a deal because it's a sponsor kit. But if you were able to get a kill and you get somebody else's kit who is a little bit more kitted than yourself, and you can extract with a whole lot more loot than what you actually went in with. Or there's the other option of, if your homeboy has played the game for a cool little minute, maybe they can bring you some loot and drop it off before y'all get started, or he can help you, you know, get some easier kills out there in the lobbies and make the experience a little bit better for you. But if you don't have a friend that's played this game and you just jumping on, another great option, which is option number 2, play as Rook, who's known as the Scavenger. So he gets thrown into raids late, and it'll be like maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes, you know what I mean? It'll be somewhere in that ballpark. You won't get the full 25 to 30 minutes of a raid to be able to get all the loot. But that's okay, because the entire purpose of you running in there with Rook is you get in there with basically a sponsor kit, so you don't lose anything that you might have been able to pick up yourself. You still get to scavenge off of other people's bodies, which is nice because sometimes a lot of people already have a lot of those things that they don't need anymore. So for example, maybe some green mods, green weapons, or some shield and backpacks and stuff of that nature. So you just are a scavenger, you know what I'm saying? You get up in there and you get what you can. But Rook is also really good too, just in case you need some materials so that you can have things to craft the free shields that you can get, free ammo and all those things. But that's a little bit later. We're gonna get into that, I promise you. But Rook is a great way to go from rags to riches. Plenty of people do it. I still do it every so often, whether it's the materials that I need, or maybe I'm just a little bit low on some money, or I'm a little low on the items that I need to have a more successful raid. My next bit of advice for you guys would be that take the time to actually learn how the shells work. And I'm not saying you got to get up in there and you got to play as every single shell, but if you got a little bit of free time, learn what abilities each shell has. It doesn't take all that long, and there's not very many of them at this current point in Marathon's lifespan, so it's not real hard, and it'll help you have a lot more successful runs, because now you might not be thrown off and confused on, wait, who did I get shot by? How? I didn't even see this person. Well, that's because they was running assassin. Damn, wait, why is this person so fast? And why they ain't running out of stamina? They could be running vandal. You know what I mean? Like, it's still a game that you need to know about the people that you're going up against. And you want to be able to identify them if you see them off rip, or maybe you hear one of their abilities go off and now you immediately know, okay, I'm going up against a destroyer, or I'm going up against this shell. So I know how to approach this fight now because they're using whoever the hell it is they're using. So I would say definitely knowing the shells, getting a good idea on that, and just being aware of it. Another tip that I got for y'all, which isn't like a super big one to prioritize, but since Bungie has been pushing out a crazy amount of updates to this game to try to make it a little bit more casual friendly and get a bit more people up in the game, there have been a lot more folk that's out there using a proximity chat. So I would say take your chances with it. It's still hit or miss. Some people don't give a damn. They still running and gunning. But I ran into a few people even today where it was 2 separate squads that was kind of communicating with each other, talking about, hey, is it all right if we extract with you? And they's like, yeah, we chill, man. We just up in here trying to fill out our contracts, get our rewards for X, Y, and Z. And they having a full-blown conversation and being real cooperative with one another. So proximity chat is something that could save you, or it could just make matters worse. But it don't hurt to throw it out there, especially if it's only one extraction point left. If you're running around with Rook, maybe you'll find another Rook. Y'all can conversate with each other and maybe help one another out. It's a lot of different things, but always be on your toes, because niggas like to turn on you at the last second. So don't just let your guard down fully. Now, kind of going back into me talking about you should know the shells, having a better understanding of what shells are meta, especially for game mode. For example, if you playing solos, even though he is not the end all be all, majority of people are going to run out there with Assassin because he has the ability to cloak himself. With him doing that, you hide yourself from the bots, even though it is only for 15 seconds, but it's still a big advantage. If you carry around smoke bombs, that also helps you stay cloaked, because every time you get into any kind of smoke, you automatically cloak yourself. And then there's this ultimate that allows you to do it. So Assassin is majority of the time people's go-to, especially if they're going to play a little bit more slower and methodical and stuff like that. But just because he is one of the highest picked shells in solo runs doesn't mean that he's necessarily the best. In my honest opinion, between Recon and Thief, it alternates between which one of them you might think is better, and it also depends on your playstyle which one you think might be better. But I do want to kind of give you that warning that Recon did just get a buff that makes her insane, and those two are probably the best to run in solo runs, because Recon, as the name suggests, is a shell that is able to track people down. So if you break their shield, you can track their footprints. Her ultimate allows you to differentiate between the bots on the map and real players as long as you're close enough to see. And then with Thief, her tactical ability is she puts on like these X-ray goggles and it'll highlight enemies. Now, it still does highlight the bots the same way Recon's ultimate does. It's just now you kind of see like colors of, oh, hey, this bot has green value of something, and oh, hey, there's a real player over there that has purple value of something. So it's still a good way to see who's around you. Yeah, even if Assassin does decide to cloak himself, both Recon and Thief can still see him all while he's cloaked, so it's not like he's invincible. So you know what I mean? Knowing the metas and knowing exactly who is your best bet to run in solos. Now, when you get into team play, now you might want to communicate with your boys and see which one of the shells they gonna run, because you can either run all of the same shells, or you could just run 2 of the same shells. But either way, there is somewhat of a method to the madness, to where it's like, okay, hey, you go Recon, I'll go this, I'll go this. Now, earlier I was talking about the factions and the importance of contracts, but only briefly. The contracts are going to be something you want to highly prioritize early on when you are first starting Marathon, because with them contracts, you guys can get upgrades. Now, with these upgrades, there are things like you get to run for a longer period of time before you overheat, you take less fall damage, you can even get upgrades to Rook so that he can either get better weapons, or the loot time is a little bit faster. And there are so many different things that you guys need to know about that. Like, every faction is important and plays a role. So don't just push off, you know, doing the contracts and getting the materials, because like I said, the more things you do for the factions, the more free things that you get every single day that you log into the game. You can get a free self-revive, free weapons, free ammo, all kinds of different shit. But you gotta work on them factions and get into a high enough level so that you can start to get those rewards. So every item in the game does have value. And speaking of how every item in the game has values, that gives me into my next point. If at any point you are running low on funds, they do have items up in the game that have this exact symbol that you guys are seeing up on screen. And that is essentially letting you know that at the end of a successful extraction, those items will automatically be sold, and you just gonna get some free money off of that. So you're gonna be getting your space coins up if you get those items. And the depleted shields and medical kits and stuff like that that you get, if you end up extracting with those still in your backpack, don't worry, them is also gonna be sold at the end. It's not like it's gonna go into your inventory, it's just gonna be sold for more money. And let me tell you, the amount of times that I was doing that when I was first starting off in this game, dog, y'all don't understand. It saved me. I did so many damn Rook runs where I really just went up in there and all I was doing was going after them little tick spider things, and I was looking for any and everything that was gonna get me some currency. That shit saved my damn life. I feel like I low-key lost count of how many things that I said. I might be over the 10, but that's all right. Let me go ahead and give y'all the next one because this one is real important too. Now, remember how I was saying earlier that Bungie has been pushing out crazy amount of updates, and they've been constantly improving the game, and they've also been testing some experimental things out. Well, one of them experimental things is actually a new game mode on the second map, which is called Marsh. But the thing is you can only get in there with sponsor kit. Now, I did have a whole video where I covered that whole thing and went over it and even showed you guys some better gameplay. So if you want to check that out, definitely look into it. The whole premise behind this game mode is that no matter where a person is, it doesn't matter if they're level 150 on their account and you only at level 12. Y'all both have to go in there with a free sponsor kit. So it levels the playing field. It gives you the opportunity to get better loot because the loot in that game mode is pretty damn good. You can still walk out with a good amount of loot, or you can walk out with the materials that I was telling y'all that gives you more money, or the last option, run and gun these niggas down, because you can still take all they shit and now you get to go ahead and sell it because, like, let's just say, for example, you got 4 pistols already. You don't need that many pistols, but you can sell it. You don't got to put it in your inventory. You can sell 2 of them and now you got 2 left and you sold 2 and you building up your money. It also is a good way to help you with your map knowledge, which is my last point. Map knowledge is key, y'all. I'm telling you, knowing the areas that give the best amount of loot is going to help. Also, knowing where people probably spawn in, you know what I'm saying? So pay attention to that every time you get into a run. Is you want to pay attention to where you're spawning, because even if it's different every single time, the last time when you got spawned in that area, another nigga more than likely got spawned over there, so you might be close to him. So just get a good understanding of the map layout. That way you know, okay, I gotta avoid this area because the bots be crazy over here, or I gotta avoid this area because 9 times out of 10 it's gonna be a whole bunch of spiders and shit over there and they gonna give away my position. Now, it ain't always like that. They do switch it up. Sometimes it's gonna be bots and or spiders over there. Sometimes it might just be one or the other. And there are even times it might be none, but you gonna have a better understanding of that the more you play in the game and everything. But the only way you gonna get that knowledge, well, the only few ways you gonna get that knowledge is you playing the game a good amount of times, and you're more than likely probably dying a lot. And you gotta learn to be okay with dying, bro. That's a part of Marathon, honestly. I know it ain't fun, especially if you going up in there with some of your goodest of good loot. That's why they have different alternatives for you to get in there with either a sponsor kit, Rook, the Marsh game mode with the sponsor kit. Those are all low risk. But if you did want to get up in there, you wanted that high risk, high reward, you got to be also okay and comfortable with the fact that there's a possibility I die and I lose out on all this shit. But that's also why you stack your bread up and you stack your inventory a little bit more before you get out there and just throw away all the shit that you got. So that's everything that I wish I knew before I jumped into Marathon. Now, there are some other minor detailed things up in the game that you guys need to know about, and you can learn from either other videos of mine or other creators. They've done a great job covering a lot of those things too. Like, a good example would be weapons. The value of a weapon is determined by the mods. The better the mods on the weapon, the better the value of the weapon is. Now, there are still times where you can get up in there and you can find you a weapon that's damn near 3K off rip, but you can increase the value of it again because of them mods. But like I said, there are other people and myself that have made multiple videos covering a lot of those things that you needed to know. But this is just some of the stuff that I think is really important and can possibly be a game changer to, one, give you a better experience up in Marathon, and 2, just help you improve at a faster rate. Because like I said, man, if you like me, you got a 9 to 5, you don't have all the time in the world to just sit down on this game and play it for hours and hours and hours. Sometimes you might only got 2 hours at most, so you don't want to feel like you wasted them 2 hours. And this is a good way to feel like you're getting the most bang for your buck in that 2-hour window. So hopefully that helped, man. I hope you guys have nothing but success in all your runs. And if this video was at all helpful to you, man, think about hitting the like button and the hype button to help out more players just like you and me. Like I said, looking out for the 9 to 5ers out there, the common player that ain't got all the time in the world to play. And with that, I look forward to catching y'all on the next one, man. Stay up, stay blessed, and as always, Gojo Clan. Peace and air grease.